But then we're also being prepared and proactive for round two, basically, if that occurs. Um, so the restrictions are starting to lighten up in some of the provinces right now. The province where I live in Nova Scotia, we're taking things very slowly. So we're not reacting as fast as other provinces because we don't want to lift the lockdown and then a week later, have triple the cases of COVID-19. So we're very cautious here in Canada.
Right. It's all over the world, This has
Mm-hmm.
become a real issue for all the humans. I don't know how. I believe that this coronavirus, will not absolutely go away when we think that after 1 month, after 2 months, this virus
Right.
will go away and
Yeah.
everything will be streamlined. But I don't think so.
No.
I believe that this virus will remain for a long time, and we need to be very cautious, and we need to develop all these immunity within ourselves so that
Mm-hmm.
we can fight with this and we can continue, surviving in this world. So people, if they will think that virus will go away and then we will start school, colleges, and we will become careless and all. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think so. In the days to come, it will, you will have this sort of, tendency to have. So I feel that we need to, you need to have your immunity. You need to safety and secure regards. You have to plan by yourself. It may be a school. It may be your own self. You need to develop all these areas so that this virus will not affect or impact you. What I feel.
Absolutely, yes. And I think now more than ever, I think individuals also have to kind of um, restructure, their way of thinking or their way of operating and doing things. But in addition to that, they have to look at the community that surrounds them and the procedures
Yes.
and policies that need to be followed beyond that. So, as individuals, whatever your professions may be, things are going to change. And so that's how, as individuals, you can self prepare yourselves for those types of changes. And then it's incorporated into the changes from the organizational point of view, whether it's a school, whether it's a company, because those changes are definitely coming in the pipelines for sure.
Right, James. You're absolutely true. And every individual need to be cautious. They need to
Mm-hmm.
understand by themselves and carry on its life. That's fine.
Absolutely.
Lovely, James. Let me welcome all the educators of the school. I think a few members will join immediately or soon.
Sure.
Dear friends, let me tell you the today's speaker and a very good friend of mine, James Martin, who is 14 years as a school leader. He has worked as a school leader in Canada, in China, in Korea, many other countries. He's working as an education consultant, certification from Harvard Business School, online in school leadership and management. He runs his own advisory company for school globally. And dear teachers, you should believe that he is a person with a lot of passion in him, and very, very well sound perfection in school education systems and school policies, how a school to run or how to school to become a brand, how to school become a success, how teachers need to be groomed out. Even if he is associated with many schools and guiding various schools all over the country, it will be privilege for us. Such a personality is connected today with all our educators. We are all inspired, James, and hopefully it's not only during this pandemic situation we are connected with him, online or through virtual classes. But I will certainly invite James to be a part and parcel of this school. When all these things gets over, and I will talk to my management, and certainly I'll put forth that you become a advisory to the school itself, so that we can gain and the school can gain overall a perfection to meet the challenges of the present generation schools. So as present generation schools need to be very very sound, very very techno savvy, very very uplifted in all facilities what they should have. Even if you James is working with a lot of agency related to recruitment, related to trainings and development, related to functioning in a very very perfect way by which can match up with the all round development, match up with all other foreign countries schools too. So it's a privilege, James, and
Thank
dear
you.
friends, let me all welcome James to this today's forum, and hopefully, the thing which he will be speaking to us, it is going to inspire all of us, and the present situation demands in this COVID-19 period, what in which way we all need to cope up with all the developmental factors, and what should be the teaching techniques, methods in these troubling times, what should be the tips on this present times to stay unique, stay current and motivated, so that the teachers you can all deliver in a very perfect way to the children. It may be through online or it may be any medium. So, James, I welcome you on behalf of my entire team, my school management, my all faculty members. I welcome to the today's session, and over to you for a very, very interactive and informative session, which I think teachers are waiting since long to have you. Welcome you, James.
Oh, thank you so much. It's an honor, and I have to commend you as well. Working with you and being a colleague of yours now for several years, I think it's just awe-inspiring. So I feel that all of the educators and faculty members are very privileged and valued to have you as well as the visionary, and I'm just so happy to be a part of it.
Thank
I
you.
do have to start by saying that education has been embedded in me. My father was a high school principal for 43 years. My mother was an elementary school teacher for 38 years, and my sister is also an educator. So
Lovely.
education has been the foundation ever since I was born. And so I've been really, passionate about education, the trends within education, but also just the training and development and what's needed to create that path, for the student population. So today's lesson that I did, I created a PowerPoint, but you'll all have to bear with me because the PowerPoint is in essence of what would be done over the course of a 2-day workshop. So I'm doing it within 1 hour. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go through it, and I will take questions certainly at the end, but also know that any of the concepts that we're discussing today, or any other things that may come up in discussions, that Dr. Nayak and I both will be able to further train and develop the skills on, as we move forward. So for right now, it's the overall theoretical with the trends in education right now. So I'm just going to switch over to my PowerPoint just to get started. So I'm just going to share. Oh, can I get the sharing feature,
Yes,
please?
just
Thank you.
sending.
Okay. Just give me a moment here.
It is done.
Nothing. No, no.
Just a minute.
Sure, no problem. I think if you made me a co-host, I could have the permission.
Oh yes, just James, can you see? Just share it now. You can
Let
share
me
now.
see. Yes, I can. Yep, I can. Okay, so can you all see?
Yes.
Okay, so the concept today is really teaching in troubling times, but just the tips on staying unique, current, and motivated. And I've been very fortunate during this pandemic to be able to utilize the platform through Dr. Nayak's webinars and series for training and development, but also from my own organization to create the database and structures that are needed in moving forward to pave the way for the new way of education post-pandemic. And there are, certain elements previous to the curriculum and the education systems that will still be facilitated. But I think that, with the way that we are changing, we have to stay current and we have to stay motivated and understand more about the student engagement processes and things. And so I'm going to explain some of the teaching methods and styles that some of you, most of you, are quite familiar with, but how to apply them to the more student engagements. So one of the quotes that I really like is that every teacher needs to improve, not because they're not good enough, but because they can be even better. And I think that is so true now. A lot of teachers, when we do this training and development, sometimes it's very difficult for us internally to think, what's wrong? Why do I need this? How am I, going to deal with this? But it's not that you're not good enough, it's that we can become even better. And I think that's important now more than ever for post COVID-19 on how we're going to be able to facilitate the lessons in accordance to the regulations for student success. And this is where we look at this time now to really build our own personal and professional skills. I want to show a very quick video here, and this is on team building, and I'll discuss the video after. It's just a very short video. Now, the reason why I show that video is because when we look at team building, we look at the collective cohesiveness of training and development. And so we have to look at ourselves as the teaching staff of coming together to really create and build something bigger and better, but also that resilience, that resistance to any of the external factors that teachers are going to see. And then also what we're looking at in moving forward is being able to strategize how to have the students become team leaders and to work together cohesively as a team. And so we are a community and moving forward post COVID-19. And so we have to understand that we have to work as a team. And I think being able to understand and look at what others are doing. And so the
James,
team,
I think video was not visible.
oh, it wasn't visible.
Video was not visible. You have played a video,
Yes, I played the video. Yes.
but the video I could not see.
Oh, oh, okay. That's what I can do is I'll send the link after, and then you can watch it individually, possibly.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that we can do
Okay.
it.
Okay. So basically, it's a video showing teamwork, and it's really understanding how teamwork, is understood of coming together. And so I think that's what we have to do as educators. So I want to move into the resilience. And so it's the ability to quickly recover and maintain positive functioning despite stressors and change. So we are experiencing the most unprecedented stress right now because of COVID-19. And so what we have to do as educators is really to look at making sure that we maintain our positivity, our optimism. And we have to use that in strategies when we deliver lessons. Because now education is turning more to a blended learning experience, we have to be able to understand that we have to move with technology and the changes that are occurring. So, we look at why resilience is critical for teachers. And so it looks at how, it enables you to cope, to bounce back and absorb. We have to be able to adjust to these disruptions and maintain high levels of productivity. And these are all critical factors for teachers to understand that students also will have to experience this. When they come back to school, we're going to have to be psychologists. We're going to have to be educators. We're going to have to wear many hats because of, this pandemic. We are looking at many different changes that are about to occur within the education system. So it's not necessarily the criteria for assessments. It's not the criteria for curriculum and results. We're looking more at, the compassion, the education, the emotional side of this type of learning as well. And so it's very critical for teachers to really understand the resilience. And this is how you, as teachers, will find that you will be better welcomed and it'll be receptive to students in the classes, whether virtually or in the classroom. And so obviously the tips for managing stress and change right now are, maintaining routines where possible, because any type of uncertainty and unstructured times can really lead to unraveling. And so we have to be aware of the news notifications, but at the same time, we can use these examples to really facilitate lessons with our students to understand what's happening, to really make it that type of learning. And so we want to make sure that we are, creating that gratitude journal, the daily journal. And these are ways that we can also ease that transition for students coming into post lockdowns. We want to make sure that we understand that the children know what's happening, but creating that routine and structure for them is very important at this particular point in time. And so I think creating those lessons in terms of journals, showing that gratitude practice is absolutely crucial. And that's what I'm noticing schools throughout Canada right now, both international and public and private schools. They are implementing these strategies for the curriculum post COVID-19, because this is where you will see the optimism transpire and ease that transition. So teaching obviously is the action undertaken to bring learning in others, and it's about motivating the students. And so we have to very much look at, how in the past we were motivating the students, but make it relevant and meaningful and memorable. Even though this is a negative time for us, we have to make things memorable. And so we have to look at what the positive key elements were, what the students, enjoyed during this pandemic. We have to elicit and make things relevant and meaningful to them so that we can really make sure that there's consistency, and that they are a part of this change. I myself am a parent to a 5-year-old son. I'm also doing homeschooling with him. And so I am making it very meaningful and relevant during this time to really educate him, on what's happening and being able to talk about it, because that's where you start to extract those emotional intelligence within the students. And that's where you'll see that students become more motivated. They start to open up and have more creativity when it comes to applying things within the lessons. So with the pedagogy, we look at the science of teaching and how the teaching occurs. And so, we look at the different approaches. And this is going to result, in the type of process. So teaching is not telling, it is training to learn. And I think this is where, we have to look at moving forward in blended learning environments, that teaching is not the lecture. It's not textbook, workbook philosophy anymore. We've outgrown that. So we as educators have to think outside the box for more critical, creative ways, because this is where we're going to see results and skills on a global scale. And so children who start to see this different types of pedagogy, we're going to see better results. We're going to see more confidence levels. We're going to see more effectiveness and efficiencies, whether it's in workplace environments, whether it's in post-education strategies. So it all starts with this foundation of changing the mindset and the ideology of pedagogy. And so the question is, how do we do that? So we look at the teaching methods, and so the teacher-centered or student-centered methods. And so, we look at the teacher-centered, where it's lecture, you stand in front of a class, the whole class discussion, demonstrations, video shows, and telling a story. This is a story. We're living a life of a storybook right now. We are in the, prime period of telling our story as individuals, as teachers, as students. And so this is where we have to really look at teacher-centered methods and creating that story within our lessons. With the student-centered methods, we look at role play, small group discussions. These are all elements that may seem insurmountable when it comes to virtual. Let's look at online teaching and learning. And, the past couple of weeks and months, we've been sort of transitioning into that sort of virtual world. But we have to be creative in creating that platform for student-centered methods. And really, I've been fortunate to observe some of the virtual online classes for schools here in Canada, but also in Brazil. And, they are very interactive with their role play and project work and really investigating. And what it's doing, it's opening up the minds for students and really visiting, how we can take what we know from classroom face-to-face value of student-centered methods, but then transferring it to a virtual reality. And so when things were not necessarily working for us in the classroom space, they may have productivity when it comes to virtual. And so this is where we have to look and really dissect the student-centered methods and transferring them to virtual e-learning platforms. And this is where the methods are really going to be efficient. So we look at we look now at developing a mindset, voice, and a plan for strategic classroom management. And this entire lesson, but also as educators, it's about developing that mindset. It's a growth mindset. We have to be open to the idea, think outside that box. look at the new procedures that we have to put in place in our lesson plans. Lesson plans are going to be different, the outcomes, the results. So we have to be prepared, but also this is an exciting time because we are putting our own individual signature and mark into this plan. So you have, as educators, the guidelines from the Ministry of Education. You have the benchmarks from school leaders. But as educators, as teachers, as faculty members, we have that ability to create our own growth mindset. And being able to do that, we have to go back to why we do what we do. Why are we teaching? Who are our students and what is it they exactly need? And so that's going back to the foundations because that's where you're going to be able to understand what the students are going to need in the coming months. And it really is about the growth mindset for classroom management because classroom management is going to change. You're going to have students that are not emotionally ready to return to class. You're going to have students that are not understanding, the changes that are taking place. And so there's a lot of different branches as a teacher that we're going to have to prepare for. And I think setting that tone in the beginning is key. Developing a voice. We want to make sure that the students have that voice. We want the teachers to be able to have that voice. And I think that's where collectively working together as a team of teachers is crucial. And so having strategic plans with teachers to develop the mindset, to create that voice is how we're going to set the expectations in the coming weeks, in the coming months of the curriculum. One trend that I'm seeing now, it's actually quite popular in Finland. And I use Finland as an example because right now in the media, in the news, in education in general, Finland seems to be doing something very well. They are productive in their lesson plans, in their curriculum. They are making headlines around the world. And my company, Global Talk, we do the education advisory services. And so I work with schools all over the world. But one of the flagged countries and one of the flagged areas, really and truly, is within Finland. They are small, but they are not to be underestimated because they are coming out with such creative methodologies for education, for development. And so one of the things that's coming out now, very popular, is teacher-led mindfulness interventions. And this is where, we look at the first years of schooling for young learners and creating the social, psychological, and the academic development platform. And this is where, as teachers, we have to really understand and be taught the science of compassion. We have to look at the humanity and the human side of things. In schools, we have this perception that schools become business and students are just numbers. Well, they're not, and that's where we have to have that mindset of we as teachers lead that mindfulness intervention. So we establish those foundations to be able to support beyond the curriculum. So what we do is we take those in terms of adjustments that are necessary. We individualize programs. So for example, here in Canada, we have what's called the IPPs, the independent personal plans. And then what we do is we create based on the attention, emotions, and behaviors for children. And that's what we have to work on in moving forward, I think, is the teacher-led mindfulness. And this is becoming a very popular concept, as I said, in Finland, and it's working very productively now in the virtual learning world as well. And so I think, trainers, and I've actually done some teacher-led mindful workshops that are very efficient, but it goes back to the human side. It goes back to connecting the head and the heart. And, that's a phrase that I've heard Dr. Nayak speak of many times throughout the webinars. And it's important to make sure that there is that connection. And so it's something that I think moving forward, we have to create that intervention as teachers and come together to make sure that the social platform as well as the psychological is matching academic development. The experiential learning cycle. So, these are just the cycles for different learning experiences and types of learning methods. And I think now more than ever, we're going to have to really look at, the kinesthetic, but also the audio, verbal, visual, and we're going to have to really incorporate the different types of learning styles and the cycles from abstract conceptualization to really reflect on, how we are going to get the outcomes that we want. And so what we have to understand is that when the lockdowns are over and we are able to go back into a school, we are going to have things completely different. We're going to have different standards, standard operating procedures, but also the learning cycles and methods. And what we're finding is that in the trends in the coming weeks and months, we have to extract certain elements of each learning style and method. And so this is where, we have to understand our student population. We have to understand our teaching styles and methods and really extract the efficient methods within the cycles, because it encompasses globally, on a global scale, where there's going to be that success. And what we find is that schools that apply different learning styles, that's where we have greater success. That's where we're seeing results in examinations. That's where we're seeing confidence levels increasing in students. And so overall, when we are not necessarily pigeonholed into one learning method, that's where we have to come together to build the lesson plans and cycles within the experiences. Project-based learning. Now, this is one also that's very popular. And I think we go back to the authenticity. We go back to the collaboration, employability skills. We have to look at areas where we are able to see, the steps for project-based learning, because we want to make sure that we're creating that reflection period for our students. We as teachers and educators also need to have that reflection period so that we understand that the voices are being heard. So we are looking at project-based learning encompass, with the experiences. We want to make sure that we're creating that platform. And so if we look at the elements on the chart on the screen, we have to understand that this is where we are able to apply the efficient lesson plans that are needed. And I think as we go forward, these are the changes that are absolutely going to have to take place for all educators in order for that success to happen. And what, my background before I even got into education was in hotels and hospitality, customer service, the wow factor, and I think going from that also perspective, as educators, being able to create such a variety of education learning platforms that creates the systems and services that we're able to provide to students, so that we are able to talk about the programs that we offer as teachers, but also to communicate with parents, to give parents that confidence that we as a school faculty have the ability to, create that successful platform for students. And I think that's where it starts, in the classroom or online with teachers. We need to be able to incorporate those skill sets. Use engaging teaching methods. Now, this is an important one because we're looking at all kinds of different creative methods, and we have to be able to give students as much choice as possible to get them to learn. We have to look at whether it's assigned groups or individual projects, even virtual, Zoom platforms, Google Classrooms, they have the capability to create these individual projects or assigned group projects. And this is where we have to make sure that we're looking at the choices. We have to give students those choices. So we have to create these novel, surprising, really emotion arousing learning events. We have to call them events. These are the times that now we have to be creative. We have to make sure that in creating these events for our students, we're doing the engagement process, because students can become tired, they can become bored. And so we have to make sure that we're arousing those types of creativity. I have one example. I was a business teacher. And again, I taught kindergartners ABCs and I taught English to aviation for adults and everything in between. And I had a business class. And one of the top business students in my class, we were having a lesson on gurus. And we were discussing the concept of gurus. And so the idea of the Dalai Lama came up in our lesson. And I could see this top student in my class very puzzled. He was absolutely puzzled and he wasn't speaking like he normally was in the lesson. And so as we were talking about gurus and the Dalai Lama, I said to him at the end of the lesson, I said, Lewis, you seem like you're puzzled. Do you have a question? And he said to me, Mr. Martin, I understand what a guru is, a leader, but he said, I don't understand how the Dalai Lama is a guru. And now, for those of you who don't know, the Dalai Lama is a store chain in North America, Canada, and the US, where everything is $1. So he heard Dalai Lama, but also understood Dalai Lama. And so this is where, you as teachers and educators, you're able to take it in a completely different direction. So we started to look at, those types of role plays within the Dalai Lama sector, within the Dalai Lama, but also demonstrating, the business concept within, the skill set. And so it's creating that point of view and being creative in engaging teaching methods that teachers have to be quick and think on their feet sometimes. So I think as we go forward as teachers, we have to take those moments and be arousing and surprising in the teaching methodologies. And so creating that role play, but also looking at the virtual field trips. Take students on a field trip. They're probably sad that they can't go out physically and visit a place and see something. So take them on these virtual rides and look and be creative and create these mysteries and elicit curiosity within the settings and your lessons. Um, and one school in particular, again, I sit in on observations for teachers on virtual lessons. And one teacher came dressed up as Abraham Lincoln one day online because it was a lesson, it was a history lesson. And so you really have to look at being able to arouse the students. And I think that's going to happen more so in the coming weeks and months because, they've been out of school, they have been in virtual lessons, but we're going to have to draw the students back. So we have to make sure that the engaging teaching methods are implemented and incorporated into the lesson planning. This is something that I've put into practice quite often with our schools. So again, I work with schools, I coach and guide schools, and these are weekly educational practices to promote happiness. And again, this goes back to the mindfulness settings, and it's creating a topic, a template for each day of the week. So we have Motivational Mondays, where we look at motivational factors, where we look at, creating that environment so that students are aware and they expect motivational Mondays. So it could be drawings, it could be images, it could be a motivational activity, it could be a speech, you know. And then on Tuesdays, Table Talk Tuesdays. Table Talk Tuesdays is, in business, Table Talks is where people come together to talk about ideas and creative ways to move forward and really, talk about their day, talk about what's happening, understanding and being a part of the students' lives. Creating that realism is important. So Table Talk Tuesdays is very efficient and useful for schools, and teachers are seeing this practice really positive, and the students love it. Wisdom Wednesdays. And so this is where you talk about different quotes based on wisdom from a business capacity, but also even for young learners, just imparting that wisdom really allows them to, comprehend whether it's through drawing or writing their own wisdom facts. And Thoughtful Thursdays. So, what your thoughts are, how you're thoughtful, and what did you practice to be thoughtful. Fun Fridays, in Canada, we do Fun Fridays in a lot of school systems where we have pajama day, where students, they either come online or they come to school in pajamas, or they dress up as their characters from storybooks. Or, teachers have gotten so creative with Fun Fridays. And these are, small but very effective ways to promote happiness within the classroom settings. And so using these guidelines, you see that engagement with the students. And so this is something that a lot of schools are now putting into practice, that you see, and it becomes sort of that norm and exciting factors within the classroom setting, whether it's virtual or face-to-face. So here, we do look at creativity. And so we look at the 8 factors, and I'm just going to go through these briefly. We look at the confidence, the ability to question without fear. And this is something that I think as teachers post COVID-19, we're really going to have to work on, is how to make sure that we're creating that environment for the students that they feel confident. Because, there is that fear factor. We all have fear, even as adults right now. This pandemic and this time that we're living in, we have fear, we have questions. We're not going to have the answers all the time, but we have to, have the ability to, give the students that open environment to ask questions. We have to look at observations. We're going to have to be observers. We're going to have to really look at problems and the ideas, because students are going to come with different problems. They've been homebound for and isolated, with parents, and so not all situations are good situations. And so we have to be very observant in the coming weeks and months of these things and factors. Humility, knowing you don't know everything. As I said, we all have questions. There's so many different things coming into place right now that we, as educators, are looked at to know things, but we may not always have the answers. Mindfulness, curiosity, and I think this is another important one for students: exploring and experimenting. So this is now a time to experiment. Look at things that are working, look at the practices within the lesson plans to create and pique the curiosity of the students and be engaging. And, resourcefulness. And so something to tinker with. Now, we use the word tinker to, manipulate, be resourceful. Look at things online and the resources that are available to you. And also, get creative when it comes to exploring that energy and being able to elicit the energy drive within students. And of course, action. I'm a firm believer, I go into schools, I audit schools, I inspect schools, and this is what I've done for several years now. And I think that there's a lot of discussions, there's a lot of planning, there's a lot of, things that take place within schools. But as teachers, now is the time to take the action. It's not just thinking, it's doing. It's the time for doing and putting these processes in place. Start preparing the lesson plans. Um, Start thinking, ahead and really coming together to create that environment, that energy, that drive that's really going to determine whether your school is successful in the coming months. And that's where action has to take place right now. As educators, as school leaders, as management, as stakeholders, we all have to take the action. So it's not just applying the thinking and knowledge, but it's the doing. And so we have to be very proactive when it comes to that right now. 5 ways teachers can stay current with developments in pedagogy: establishing the goals. As I said, create your goals as an individual, as a teacher, why you do what you do. Start doing a vision board. I've been working with teachers in schools now where we create vision boards and what teachers want to do and what their vision is in the coming months with their students and how they want to be a part of their school. Discuss with peers and experts from across the world. Well, again, globally, that's what I do. I absolutely love discussing and talking with people on that global scale, because that's where we have to create that platform where it's not just I, it's all about we. And so we have to look as teachers and the team of teachers and talk to each other among your team of teachers within your own school of practices and share the knowledge and the wealth, because I think that's where you're going to see the results. That's where you're going to see the standards and specifications within your teaching style, but also the learning environment and culture within your school. Don't panic and keep things in high spirits. And I think that's something that, at face value, that's a very difficult challenge. As an individual, it's hard to stay motivated. You have to find your outlets. I drink coffee in the mornings. and so, we all have our own vices. We all have our own ways to keep that energy, and to understand that the support is there. And I mean, I've known Dr. Nayak for quite some time now, and I know that the support, the materials, the resources are there for you as educators right now. And so it's important for you to all keep those spirits alive, because that's where you're going to do well as a school system. Utilizing social media, I think that's where we're looking at the social media platforms. We are coming into a time now where social media, where telephones, where the laptop, everything from the technological advances, we have to make sure that we are staying current with. And so utilizing these social media outlets in terms of our curriculum is also very important. Proceed to continued education, that's the training and development. Those are workshops and consistencies to really have that operational platform, but also utilizing and growing and learning. Educators want to grow. They want to develop their skills. I've seen educators with teaching certificates. I've seen teachers with master's degrees. But when it comes to the idea of practicality, you want to make sure that you're always learning. You're always continuing that education process, because that's going to translate into your teaching styles. I wanted to leave it open to the end for some questions, so I'm just going to kind of quickly go through the next couple of slides here. Student engagement, we have to look at the reward system for achievements and learning efforts. We have to praise, publicly the students. We have to really now focus on encouraging the students to really take pride in what they're doing and how they are being a part of the lessons and learning right now. Because as teachers, we have challenging times. The transition to online, one day just saying, okay, we're teaching online. And so that process is very stressful for teachers, but we also have to look at it from the students' perspectives. So now the student engagement is crucial in rewarding, the small victories. We have to make sure that we're identifying the students in the small victories and the things that they are doing. We have to encourage them to really take pride of their accomplishments, because those small victories is what's going to build that confidence level moving forward. There's a lot of key phrases here to build the resilience in kids, and this is from Educate to Empower, an organization that's fantastic in the results of education process and learning. So really looking at, you know, these key phrases and really incorporating them in your teaching culture, using those on a daily basis, you will start to see kids, you know, and the children and students really taking pride in their work. So I love the way that you always try so hard. Keep going, you're nearly there. You know, you are so brave. These are just very positive outlets to really build the resilience that kids are going to need in the coming months. And I think you'll find that when you start to use them, they become embedded in your process, in your way of thinking. Start looking at the way you speak. Look at the way that you're using phrases with the children. And this is where the transition post COVID-19 is going to be much easier for you as teachers, whether it's virtual, whether it's online. Strategies for teaching, active learning, participatory, and flip the classroom. You know, these are concepts that I think that strategies for student engagements are really going to be effective. You have to create the teaching and learning environments. You're going to look at the participatory teaching and really how to take the backgrounds and the learning styles of students, understand the backgrounds, and really incorporate them into the strategies. uh, Flip the classroom. You know, I think that's a crucial one because we're looking at the lecture homework relationship, but then also being able to creatively flip the classroom in terms of virtual or, you know, in the classroom, and thinking about the things outside the classroom and the pre-recorded videos and the creative ways that are going to be so successful in the coming months. We look at the student engagement strategies for curriculum. We have to set the expectations from the very beginning, you know, and school management will certainly do that in the guidelines and the premises from the ministries of education. Integrated curriculum, compartmentalizing the subjects in the core areas, but also making the course relevant, as I said, you know, and authentic learning experiences. And so this is where we have to experiment. We have to really explore and, you know, really hear the students' voices when it comes to the student engagements. Strategies for student engagement for assessments is, you know, preparing the classes. We have to prepare classes before class. We have to assess early and often. So we have to look at these frequent quizzes, both formal and informal. We have to work alongside the traditional values, but also creatively coming up with ideas for the assessments. Now, assessments and benchmarks and things are very much in a gray area right now for education. And that's standard across the world, you know, because it's looking at the platforms for assessments, what the benchmarks are going to look like. But then we also look at the equivalence of problem and project-based learning. And I think that's where we're going to be able to complete the strategies for assessments as educators and being able to individually create these strategies so that there is that student engagement for assessment processes. And I think collectively, you know, once we start to incorporate those strategies, we're going to see that we're going to connect the head and the heart of our students. And I think as teachers, we're going to hone in on our teaching skills. And once the foundation is there, teachers are going to be able to take the foundation and do what they do best and teach. You know, there's a lot of bureaucracy, there's a lot of red tape, there's a lot of planning and development and preparation that's going to take place post COVID-19 for teachers. And that in itself is a very overwhelming process. So we have to understand and reflect and look back and really prioritize what we as teachers and faculty members have to do step by step, because there's a lot of moving parts. But if we start to compartmentalize and categorize what we need to do and plan and prepare, we then will be successful, but we can also find it much easier in the process. This is a fun little thing that one of the teachers here in Canada shared with me. And it's a cartoon image. And so, it's really looking at when schools reopen and how students are going to say, Miss, he's wearing my mask, or Miss, he's coughing on me. Miss, he says my mask is cheap. So, these are all new elements of areas that we're going to be exploring and we're going to be experiencing. And so it's just, going back to humor. We have to take this time during the pandemic to also make it fun, to look at humor, to look at the aspects, but also be very strategic in moving forward. And that comes to the end of my presentation. So again, thank you for bearing with me. These concepts are very informative theoretical concepts that I do in workshops over the course of 2 or 3 days. So trying to do it in 1 hour, I tried my best. And I hope that, these are useful tips in the coming months. And I am very excited at the opportunity to eventually, post COVID-19 and the lockdown, to really come and visit your school and meet all of you face to face at some point. So, again, Dr.
James.
Nayak, thank you for having me.
Oh, that's lovely. It's my pleasure, James, that you have engaged our teachers. It's not like that. That's 1 hour. I could not understand what all you have spoken, with related to the teaching methods, how to engage the teachers in a better way in the teaching method, the experiential learning. I used to talk in my sessions everywhere, the experiential learning method, the project-based learning methods. And now I believe, the old days are gone. Yeah, the days when we were taught, go with a book and just the teacher used to read out and complete it. But now, as children, they can get everything in the Google. So you need to be more elaborately on the basis of connecting with life examples, these sort of teaching methods. You need to absolutely, it was wonderful. And the one slide I liked very much, the weekly educational, which promotes happiness. And
Yes.
believe me, even if in India also, the capital, Delhi government has taken up a happiness curriculum into that. And when in this happiness curriculum, the weekly educational concepts will be added. If at all the teachers go on with this weekly concept, I think, it's lovely to find out how teaching will be more attractive, more inventive, and more very, very effective for the teachers to come. And the one thing which you saw that was, which causes creativity. And you have jotted down few points. And you need to, a teacher need to be very, very confident. Teacher need to observe things before they go on. They should have curiosity, they should have resourcefulness, they should have mindfulness, humility. All those points, I believe these are all heart touching point for a teacher. And believe me, teachers today might have gone through all these points. And those who have gone very mindfully these points, I believe all teachers, you might have gained a lot. And when it is practically implemented in the classroom situation, when we learn something and go on, and finally when we go to a class and implement those things practically, even if the 10% out of this, you will find out a different teacher within you.
And
So
the
that's,
results, absolutely. I agree. I think the idea is that internally, as educators, we have the concepts. We understand the concepts, but then applying them and implementing them within the classroom settings is a different category. And so this is where we have to look at the concepts and really reflect on the concepts that are being implemented. Or are they all up here, or are we practicing them? And I think that's where we have, as educators, to really understand, because that's where we're going to see those results. Absolutely. Absolutely.
that's absolutely correct. Any teacher, any educator wants to have any query, or you want to share a feedback, you are welcome. Yes. Yes, you can just open your mic and you can
Good evening,
share
sir.
or concurrence. Yes.
So this is Shubham Gargia. James, it was just excellent to hear from you. The one thing which I liked the most was the PPT was such an elaborate was in a such elaborative manner. It was excellent. Secondly, the way you touched the emotional aspects, that how to deal with the children along with the academic part. The what all are the aspects we have to deal with for their happiness. But sir, there is one question from my side. I want to ask, if we want to reward the children in these days, so we cannot have a school assembly or class in reality. So can we use the social media as a platform to reward them, or what can be any other better method for this?
So yeah, absolutely. So here's I'm speaking from the Canadian perspective, which I'm sure is very standard globally. But the social media aspects, we have to understand and make sure that there is some security, privacy elements to those types of advertisements or things like that. So again, first that kind of comes into the social media permissions. And so I know a lot of schools now, what they're doing is they're reaching out to parents, because we do want to embrace and celebrate the small victories, as I said. But at the same time, with the virtual way of learning right now, we have a totally different element of security breaches and privacy things. So we have to make sure that those are first welcomed by parents as well. And so, for us as educators, internally, when we have a virtual class, absolutely, we can commend somebody for doing something to, understand and give the example to other students in the class online. But in terms of the social media elements and aspects, that's something that may take a little more process because of the security breaches. So that's something to consider as a policy and procedure. But I think for right now, using the internal part of your teaching style and just embracing that within the classes online is okay, absolutely okay.
Okay,
Much
thank you, sir.
appreciated, James. I think James now have become a mastermind and initiating some great ideas in education. I feel very happy to proud that my all teachers are connected to you. Yes, next, any other question?
Good evening, sir.
Yes.
Hello.
Sir, my name is Dr. Kavita. I want to ask something. Sir, in virtual classes, how I implement project-based learning, can you give an example?
So project-based learning, that's something that is still kind of a working model right now with the virtual learning. However, at the same time, it's something that what I'm seeing now as an example, teachers are being are giving the curriculum, or they're giving the outline of the project, and then it's demonstrated and shared, not necessarily within the same lesson. And so the students can go and complete something and then display or experience, the element of the project base in the next
Okay.
virtual class. That's generally what happens. Also, what teachers are also doing, if it's an element that it's a smaller project, what the teachers would do is preempt. So they would say, this is the project for our next lesson, have something prepared, and then the students can then themselves in the next lesson walk through the steps and stages for that project. And so there's a little element of pre-planning when it comes to project-based learning in the virtual world.
Okay,
All
thank you,
right.
sir.
You're
Next
welcome.
question. I think we have very less time. The last question can go, if at all. Otherwise, we can thank James. It was really wonderful. James, I think very delightful to have you, even if the webinars which we are conducting the entire month last year, I mean, last month, it
Yeah.
was, truly worthy, because many of my teachers also, some of the other the sessions they have attended yours,
Yes.
and they always speak very high about you, and we all are waiting once when you come to India,
Yes.
and specifically to my school. to have a
Absolutely.
good collaboration. I think we'll be waiting for that.
Absolutely.
So that's a wonderful from the entire team. I thank James for this wonderful session, and
Thank you so
hopefully
much.
you all you will be growing with all very new methods, technologies, or new methods of learning. And this post-pandemic is making everyone learn. And this present pandemic is absolutely online. And I think in this online online mode of teaching and learning, we are learning the best to the maximum extent. And I feel you, we, and all educators are in the process of learning. Hope to come up with new teaching learning methods in the days to come. With this note, I thank from the entire team to James. James, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure. And again, I look forward to the day when I can meet all of you face to face. When I do come to India, it will be such a delight. And if you do have any other further questions, by all means, direct them to Dr. Nayak or myself. And the PPT, Dr. Nayak, you have as well. So it's absolutely shareable to the teachers also. So again, thank you for this opportunity. And I'm sure I'll see you in the coming months.
So nice of you. God bless
Beautiful.
you. Take care of yourself.
Have a great evening. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. So that's, dear educators, that was James. And I think you all might have liked his session. He's a very good educator, and we are connected since long. I hope you all might be happy. You know, when you connect good people, that's more important. Getting connected nowadays is required during these online classes. And I think this is a fortune of us that good people are getting connected with us. Never mind, tomorrow again, one more session. I think tomorrow is 15th of May, and 15th of May, we are going to connect with Dr. Manoj Madan, the principal of 3 schools in Delhi. He's a very good friend. He is a dramatic, you can say, a dramatized based principal. Drama is, you know, is a favorite aspects of teaching and learning method. Those who believe that with role play methods, with perfection in acting, the way history is to be taught in a different way. So that is the person who acts, plays, and then now he is a principal of 3 schools, a wonderful guy. And I hopefully we will connect him tomorrow at around 4 o'clock once again. So tomorrow, dear teachers, we have a session for the parents, a parenting session again at around 5 o'clock. Just immediately after the session, we will try to connect the parents. So friend, there are 2 sessions. One is for you and the parent session. For the parenting session, again, you just now, I think we will send you the creative in the group. Ritika madam might have prepared. It will come to your group now. And once it comes to you, kindly circulate in all your groups and ask the parents to join tomorrow. So tomorrow the session will be effective, you know, nurturing, how you are going to nurture your kids effectively. That the session we will have for the parents tomorrow. So that's all from today. Thank you and take care. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.